West. Oh, the voices come together, a podcast so fine, telling tales of yesterday, crossing every line, with a jazzy kind of rhythm and a spark in their quest. It's the best in the West, we must confess. Late nights cramming or dreaming so tall, echoing footsteps down the old school hall. Friendships carved in stone stand the test of time, like the beat of a heart in sync and rhyme. Oh, the voices come together, a podcast so fine, telling tales of yesterday, crossing every line, with a jazzy kind of rhythm and a spark in their quest. It's the best in the West, we must confess. Time moves along, but the stories stay bright. Threads of laughter weave the day and night. Normandy's echoes beat strong in our chest. Forever we're tied to the best in the West. Oh, the voices come together, a podcast so fine, telling tales of yesterday, crossing every line, with a jazzy kind of rhythm and a spark in their quest. It's the best in the West, we must confess. We must confess. Normandy's echoes beat strong in our chest. Forever we're tied to the best in the West.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mr. Riley coming to you live from the West Coast, the best coast, the West Side. Hey, happy June 2nd, you guys. It's been a while since we have been in the studio. I'm trying to get my sea legs back in terms of making sure everything is what it's supposed to be tonight. So welcome to the show. Man, I am super, super excited. We have a super dope guy in the studio. We have a super dope guy who's in the studio. And you know, let me just go ahead and read what the El Presidente just sent me. So, you know, he's always sending me some stuff. So tonight we have, as a special guest, we have Shannon Lawrence, class of 1989. He's born in Gardena. He attended NCS as a kindergarten student in September 1983. Man, we probably got your social security number over here as well. Okay, so he was in Miss Parker's class, and he stayed there until third grade. Let's see. He attended Gardena High School. I mean, it just you know, he just left third grade and just went to Gardena High School. So we'll fill in that gap right there. He attended after attending Gardena High School, he attended Alabama State University. Go Hornets, okay, HBCU in the house. Matter of fact, I was just wearing, I got it right here, my Jackson State hat on. Let me see, The I Love, there you go right there. Let's see, he's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Incorporated. I said that correctly? There you go. All right, he gave it a little signal. Okay, let me see. And then Darren sent me a couple of photos. Let's see. Oh, here's an interesting story that here's an interesting anecdote that Darren added. He said he was always hanging out with Darren, who was in the 6th grade in 1983. and would often take Shannon around the school as a big brother mentor type to the big playground with him to show him around. All right, we'll see if that's true. And then El Presidente added, Darren thought so highly of Shannon that he asked him to sign his 6th grade yearbook as a kindergarten student, and Shannon could only simply write his name. Wow. Shannon was also at the NCS reunion and rekindled his relationship with Cheryl and Andre Williams. Hey, I know them, that knew him or know him and were seated at the same table for the event. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're just going to chop it up with my man, Mr. Shannon Lawrence. Let's give him some love. Y'all clap it up. Nobody clapping? Okay. Can y'all clap it up in here? All right, y'all can't hear it anyway. All right, here we go. Hey, what's going on, Shannon?
Hey, what's up?
How you feeling, dude?
I'm good, man. I'm good. What about you?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for being here. First of all, man, I know it's been hectic, and I appreciate your patience last week. We couldn't go live because my wife had a little situation going on, but she's much better. So thank you for coming into the studio tonight, man. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, and we especially want to know what happened between 3rd grade and high school, man. You just left 3rd grade and went to high school. What's up with that?
You know, my education in Normandy was so phenomenal that I tested right in the 9th grade. I'm just joking. No, seriously. So I ended up. So it's what's really interesting is that I went from really one extreme to the other.
Okay.
I mean, Normandy Christian, it's a black school.
Yeah.
Black teachers,
Yeah.
black experience, the whole nine. And then my mom sent me to another Christian school, Calvary Baptist, which is in Torrance, across the street from El Camino.
I know where that is.
Yeah. I put it like this.
On Crenshaw, right?
Is that? Yeah, it is Crenshaw. So this is my experience and my experience alone.
Okay.
Coming from a school like Normandy, where I was loved and cared for, and there was compassion for me, but there was also the passion to make sure I was educated by teachers and administrators who looked like me, who sounded like me, who had the same experience as me, and then going into a school where from what I remember, I was the only boy in my class where both my parents was black. Where when I arrived, I don't even think they had a single black teacher.
Wow.
I remember because my mom because being in black culture just is who I am. I remember this was around the era of, remember the movie Breakin' and Breakin' 2 and all that stuff? And so I fancied myself a break dancer and all that stuff. But I remember music would be playing and they be playing Aerosmith. And I'm like, who's that? So it was a real culture shock. And
Okay.
what was really even crazier was that the culture wasn't just in culture, but I began to see a difference in how they experienced God and Jesus, which was wild, right? Because it was different. And so I did that. And then just to even show how my experience there reflected probably how a more accurate reflection on being black and growing up in America. I never went 2 weeks without having detention. Not because I did anything wrong, but because the standard for me was different at that school.
Okay.
I lasted about 3 years there, and I just told my mom, I can't take it anymore. I knew I wasn't being treated fair. I knew that I was being singled out. And just to even put in perspective, I remember when I was in 5th grade, I wasn't even allowed to do an oral book report for school because I stuttered.
Okay.
And instead of having compassion for me and had given me grace, I was punished because I wasn't able to fully participate, and that also forced not forced, that also gave them the excuse to put me in remedial reading because they had this mentality and they put the stigma on me that if you can't talk, you must not be smart enough to read, which is totally false. And I think that's still based in, I think even that the way that they did that was based in racism and unconscious bias is what we would call it now. And so it was not a good experience, and it was a polar opposite experience from the love and care and compassion that I received at Normandy. And that's one of the things I think I remember the most.
Okay.
But anyway,
Okay.
from there I got to Perry Middle School, and then
So you did go to middle school.
I did.
Okay, but you just lasted 3 years at this school. We'll just call it this school.
Yeah.
Right? But it wasn't as nurturing. We're going to come back, and because we don't want to focus on the nurturing, but as an educator, I understand what you're talking about because those unconscious biases that people have, especially back in the day.
Right.
Now we're a little bit more intelligent, and we kind of realize using my special ed background, we don't want to call them disabilities. We want to call them, just exceptional abilities, right? And so, unfortunately, they fail to realize what an exceptional person you are, despite your, ability to, have a speech impairment, right? They didn't look at the whole child. They just looked at one part of the child and made a predetermined idea and just went with that. So we thank you for just reminding us about how good Normandy was. And so we're gonna get into that, man. We're definitely gonna come back. I just want to put a pin in that because we don't want to focus on the negative that, the school. And it probably had nothing to do, I know it probably had nothing to do with the religion, but it probably had everything to do with the people who were running the school because they didn't know how to cater to a black little boy back in the early 1980s.
Yep. Absolutely.
Man. All right, so go ahead. So we went to high school. You hung out at Gardena. Man, how was that experience? You going from Perry to Gardena? I know they're right down the street from each other, man. Yeah. How did that work out for you?
Gardena was cool. I mean,
okay.
A lot of the kids I went to Perry with, we all went to
matriculated.
I was in the first 9th grade class, and so it was funny because my friends who graduated from Perry in they had 2 graduations that year. You had a 9th grade and an 8th grade.
Okay.
And so my friends that were in 9th grade, they never got to be real scrubs.
Yeah.
But we did. And I remember, we were young. We looked like little kids on that campus.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think Gardena, it was a really, really good experience. I was in a Magna program, which afforded probably other opportunities. Mm-hmm. Just when it came down to exposure and stuff. But ultimately, Gardena was fine. It was a large school. We had really good administrators, but it was also going through just the early 90s it was a very interesting time just in Los Angeles, coming out the crack epidemic, going into kind of like this new era, like this in-between era, if you will, where LA was trying to define itself. A different world was still on TV, so you had this juxtaposition of gangster and college graduate, so and you can experience all of that in a large school like that. And so I think, I enjoyed it. Luckily I graduated.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to ask you. My next question was, so you talked about the college and, you got the city and, you got Rodney King happening. You got, gangster rap doing this thing. So, and I think you mentioned a different world. And, was that an influential show that helped you make a decision to go to Alabama State?
Oh, absolutely. I think, I often joke that for a period of about 6 or 7 years, I think in America, Black America shut down from 8 to about 9 o'clock on every Thursday. Because we watch Cosby Show in a different world. And I think, watching A Different World in particular and watching what Black college life was like, it was influential because you got a chance to see young Black people in a safe setting discovering what it means to be Black from a social standpoint to romance, to just friendships, to academia and figuring out what you're going to do with your life.
Yeah.
And then, School Days, the movie came right before that. And so
absolutely.
I think that was the foundation for all of that. And And then both my parents went to Alabama State. Matter of fact, I think on my mom's side, just about anyone who went to college, I think, went to Alabama State. But my parents, they met at Alabama State, and so I remember, visiting as a kid, and so knowing that what Alabama State could offer, that was a huge factor. But then watching a different world, kind of bringing the South into my home in Gardena, at least once a week, that sealed the deal, and I didn't have any desire to really go anyplace else, let alone go to anything that wasn't an HBCU.
You didn't want to go to a PWI, huh?
Not at all. I had you gotta remember something too. I was always like politically engaged and aware.
Yeah.
So this was also at a time where Ward Connolly was on this rage through America, peeling back, putting legislation on ballots, peeling back affirmative action.
Yeah.
And I think affirmative action was on the ballot in California, and it had passed or was on its way to pass. And I remember, as a personal political statement, I remember saying, I'm not going to even give the state of California the satisfaction of telling me no because I'm Black. And so, yeah, I was that kid.
So you're like, I'm out either way.
Yeah.
We're not staying close to home.
Right.
We going out of state and getting this education.
Yep.
Yeah, because pre-show we talked about, we talked about a myriad of stuff that we probably could have saved for the show, but definitely just the influence of Black culture at that time, the consciousness, that was beginning to take place, and so you had a lot of different areas pulling at you, in terms of, or not just you, but young people, in that age group, just saying, hey, you could go here, you can go there, you can be what you want to be, and so you chose Alabama State. Plus, bruh, I mean, I think you were probably we're going to go anyway because you said your mom and dad and a whole bunch of, so you really didn't have a choice in the matter. It was like, look, bruh, we gonna pay, or we gonna help pay, or you going to Alabama State.
Actually, it's funny. My parents didn't really put any pressure on me like that.
Oh, wow.
I think my dad was actually surprised. He was like, "You want to go there? Why?
Right.
Like, you live in California." And I was like, "But I don't want to stay here."
Right. Well, no, that's cool. Okay. Now, did you have any extracurricular activities at Alabama State? Or was it just you, because you said your parents met there, so obviously you had family and friends there, or did you? How did that whole thing play out where you graduated, from Alabama State?
Well, I do want to be clear. So, we've heard this before, but some people graduate magna cum laude, some graduate summa cum laude. I graduated thank you laude, and I'm like fudge. I was like fudge in higher learning. I was there for a minute. It seems like but I didn't really do a whole lot of extracurriculars, because the one thing that I wanted to do was play in the band.
Okay.
Band culture in the South is
different.
Way different than band culture here.
Man.
And unfortunately, going to school here in Los Angeles, it just and this was before the internet, right?
Sure.
So I remember I wrote an actual handwritten letter to the band director saying I'm interested. Never heard back. But I wasn't prepared, to be honest with you. Because I wasn't prepared for the rigor.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for what it took. I wasn't. And sadly, at Gardena High School at that time, there was nobody there that could tell me what to do, what to know, or had connections. And so I was totally unprepared, and so I think I got there freshman week, and some of my dorm mates, they were in the band, and they was coming back in about 10 o'clock at night, and I was like, "Where y'all coming from?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Band practice."
Yeah.
Band practice.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, when y'all gotta go back?" I said, 8 o'clock in the morning. You know what? This might not be for me.
Right,
Maybe I'm just gonna focus on being a college student.
No, it's definitely dedication, man. Thinking about, Nipsey song, dedication. But no, you got to be dedicated to that craft, man, because, those folks, when like this fall, when they had the black band battle of the bands, man, those folks, and I believe Alabama State was in the house.
I think they were the best band, if I'm not.
You know what? I think so too.
Shout out to the Marching Hornets.
Yeah, man. No, it was so it's just not like, okay, let me practice for a couple of hours. Nah, you gotta be dedicated to that craft.
Yeah.
And so back to your point about music and arts here, I can just reflect on me being an elementary school teacher, and I see the orchestra guy, and he comes in once a week, and I hear the students playing, and it just, yeah, they just need a lot more practice, and so hopefully as students matriculate, they can get that good musical foundation, and turn out to be outstanding musicians. But yeah, the foundation here in California is kind of crazy.
And I'll say this: I think even when it comes down to education, funding, and priorities, to be honest with you, there's a reality that there's an actual link between children who participate in sports,
Yeah.
children who participate in the arts, and success in life. And I think, I think that we have to be more serious about advocating for those things being in our kids' lives to provide that balance. Everything cannot be algebra and English.
Yeah.
I mean, those are good things to know, but those are also things that have to be undergirded with creativity.
Absolutely.
And innovation. And you get those things, and teamwork. You get those things in sports and in arts. And I think we're not having that conversation enough.
Yeah.
To be really honest with you.
Yeah, I mean that's funny you say that, because I did everything I can to push my kids into some kind of activity, especially in high school. So they graduated, three of them graduate. Actually, no, let me take this back, because cheerleading is a sport. All of them found their way into sports, and I can remember in middle school and elementary school as well, one of my sons, he picked up the violin, and was like, okay, he gonna be a little by eventful. I don't know, but he's gonna play an instrument, he's gonna play some sports, and that's cool, right? But we need to make sure we pour into their lives, so. The violin kind of faded, and some of my oldest son, he started playing the sax. I'm like, okay, because I'm not musically inclined. I can hold a little bass note, right? But, playing the instrument, I'm like, okay, look at my kids. I'm all proud, like, yeah, go, kids, go. But yeah, they lost that love of the musical arts and just found their way in the athletic part of the events. And so, that's a good thing. And yeah, we got to do what we can to kind of push. And I think even, pre-show we were talking about if we know, or if our parents, knew what we know right now, then we could have been, probably pushed and prodded a little bit more to kind of help some of our outcomes. Because like you said, thank you, Lottie. Cal State Long Beach. That was a long, long kind of situation. So, but the good thing is, once you make it through, you got all that stuff, and it makes you a better person, despite however it took. If it's cum laude, valedictorian. Thank you, Lottie. Hey, thank God for those experiences, because that's going to shape who you are, and who you're meant to be in the world. So,
absolutely.
So let's go ahead and hop into this, man. So now, tell us what you're doing now, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit about, the impact that NCS had as you kind of, working your way in the world right now. So tell us what you're doing right now. I called you a big wig earlier, and you're like, nah, bro, I ain't no big wig. But go ahead and tell us what you do here in the city of Los Angeles.
So, so for perspective, maybe about 10 years ago, about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I started a consulting firm, Inkwell Consulting Group.
Okay.
And that was created to do a couple of things. So we do political consulting, government relations consulting, nonprofit training. We work with 501c3s and C4s that want to get involved in or be active in politics, and how to do that legally, ethically, but also effectively. So that's been kind of on the back burner for the last couple of years. My day job, per se, is I work in the office of Mayor Karen Bass as the deputy.
Okay, hold
director.
on. Hold on.
I'm not here.
No. I got you. Say that for the people in the back, just a little bit louder.
Right now, I work in the office of Mayor Karen Bass in Los Angeles.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know too many people down at City Hall. So he work at City Hall.
Yeah.
He
Got an office right there.
see, he like one of them baby big wiggers. He's trying to downplay it. But no, that's cool though. That's cool because you got your own thing, but you also, you got to make some real income, right?
Yeah.
So that's your real. So would you say your consulting job is like your side hustle?
Yeah. I also have a nonprofit, but yeah.
Okay, so you got three things.
That's right.
You got three jobs.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so
but
go
the
ahead.
main job is dad to
Yes.
Elijah, Ariana, and Brianna.
There you go.
So
Number one. Okay, so let's go ahead and kind of go down the line. Let's first give you an opportunity to kind of share what you do with your consulting, and then we'll talk about what you do in the mayor's office, and then you can talk about being a father to your three wonderful kids.
got it. So on the consultant side, like I said before, a huge part of that is just being a connector. I've been very fortunate that I grew up here in Los Angeles, born and raised, just went away for school. But when I first, and I think it's important to understand kind of the journey and how I got there. When I graduated, as I was graduating college from Alabama State, my senior year, I actually ended up interning for Senator Hank Sanders, who represents the residents of Selma, Alabama. We've heard of Selma because of the march. And let me tell you how. And so that led to working in the administration of the last Democratic governor in the state of Alabama, Don Siegelman. After we did not win re-election, which is a whole nother podcast, we talk about political crime stories. After we didn't, I ended up moving back to Los Angeles, where I started working as a union organizer for SEIU on the security guards campaign. So we were at that time, the workforce was like 70% black men under the age of 30. It was kind of right up my alley. And I stayed in labor for a few years, hopping back and forth between different locals, between security guards, public sector workers, home care workers, and nursing home workers, the whole nine. All of it doing both field organizing, but also political and community organizing work on behalf of working people. That led to my first stint in City Hall, working for then Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa, helping to move his education policy work. That's where I worked for former LAUSD Superintendent Ray Cortinez. We talked about him a little bit earlier. Then I went to the census for the 2010 decennial. And right after that is when I started my consulting firm, because that's when I started realizing that people really need access to the process. And so I wanted to be able to offer that service. And so that's what I started doing, helping people to really understand the small businesses and people, running political campaigns and the whole nine, just to bring the process to the people and help them to understand.
Okay, so just go just a little bit deeper. What you're talking about, the process, because I know we were talking again pre-show. If you had to narrow down and explain it to your elevator pitch, what do you mean with the process of helping voters become educated and all that kind of good stuff?
Well, it's not just voters, but politics and government impacts every single aspect of our life, from the taxes we pay to the services that we get to everything, to public safety and the whole nine. Most times when we run into a problem, the first thing we want to do is call the mayor or call such and such. If you understand the process, you'll understand that you'll understand where the power lies within government, and sometimes it's in a department, sometimes it's in a commission, sometimes it is in the elected official, but most times it's actually in your own neighborhood, and understanding how do I get the other people who I live around that have the same problem. How do we take our collective voice and make it loud enough to where our issue gets elevated and where change needs to happen? But understanding what's what and understanding when to do the things that you need to do, that's where I come in as I help that. Whether and right now, a lot of times it's with businesses, with nonprofits, and helping good people get elected to office.
That's what's up. Okay, so then, which brings us to your current, current situation. You're working for or working, with, oh no, working for uh, Mayor Karen Bass. So how did that whole thing? I mean, just that whole, the political process kind of intrigues me a little bit because there's so many different avenues, so many different offices, so many different voices. You hear a lot of community activists. That's kind of how they get their start, and then eventually they rise up and become elected. Just thinking about Senator Barack Obama and how he was just a senator and working with the people, and he kind of got that position and he was doing some things, and then ultimately folks heard him at the DNC and they were like, oh, okay, we kind of like what this dude. So just kind of, what does it mean to you to be a part of her team, especially, with everything that's going on here in Los Angeles? I know, we were talking about the fires earlier. What does that mean for you being a black man working with, I think the first woman mayor?
And black woman.
Black woman mayor, right? So, kind of make some sense of it all for us, the viewers, the listeners. What does that mean for you working with? And then, how did you get that job, bro? Did you know somebody, man? How did you get that job?
I'll start with how I got the job. I was actually working in the administration of the previous mayor, Eric Garcetti. And I worked in the last year or so on his administration, where I was brought in to help stand up a small business incubator program focused around tech. When Mayor Bass won, and we were all happy, I was fortunate enough to where they saw value in me and what I could bring to the table, and so they kept me. And just over the last couple of years, my role has changed a little bit. Responsibilities have changed, but that just comes with the nature of the office as the office begins to take shape. But what I do now is continue to work with that small business incubator program and also work with some of our other community partners where we are standing up programs. I work in the Office of Finance, Operations, and Innovation, so more commonly known as the budget office, but that's just one part of what we do. So I serve as our office's liaison to our legislative team.
Yeah.
And then I also liaise to our Department of General Services. So when it comes down to, and the General Services is really the heartbeat of the city of Los Angeles. I mean, every single GSD supports literally every other department in the city. And so I work with them to make sure that they have the resources that they need in order to serve the department, so that the departments can serve the citizens, whether it be in the business community or residents.
Now, do you like that? Is that something that, so going back to, third grade, before you had the bad experience at the other school, could you see yourself working in this capacity where you are right now? Could you imagine you working for, not just, city government, but for Mayor Karen Bass?
It's funny. When I was in third grade, because of the confidence that Normandy gave me, I thought I'd be in Congress right now.
Oh, wow.
I didn't think I would be working for anybody. I thought I would be having people work for me. But that just goes to show to like what Normandy really instilled in us as students. I mean, like there were no boundaries. There was no ceiling that you could reach. It was all a floor that just kept rising every time you jumped, And so, honestly, no, I didn't see it. And at the same time, I think, I don't think that dream is lost. It just hadn't happened yet, right? But
Yeah, just put on the back burner for right now.
well, no, just I will say this. I think um, one of the things that I've learned in life is be careful about getting things when you want it, and you have to trust God's timing, right? Um, one of the things, and this is going to sound really, really morbid. I promise it's going to sound morbid, but this was really going on in my head. Well, two people who I really admired was, still do, Dr. King and Malcolm X. But also, when you look at all these other people that have accomplished like significant things in life, they all died young. And one of my biggest fears growing up was that I was like, I know, God, you got something for me, and you have me here to do something. But once I accomplish it, I don't want to die. So give it to me later so I can experience life. And, and I don't know if that's the right way to think. I don't know if that's an indication of my spiritual. I don't know. But, what I do know is that experience, especially in politics and government, experience counts, because, you have people that are literally, their entire livelihood is hanging in the balance of your vote. Mm-hmm. And your vote is often, here's the thing, if your vote is often a reflection of your values, and your values are often shaped by time and your own experiences. And so, to a large extent, it's like you want someone that has experience in life to be able to make those decisions for you, because your livelihood it really depends on it. I mean, if you think about what's happening in Congress now, and this happens almost every cycle, but like there are programs that are hanging in the balance that affect millions of people. And if the funding gets cut, then, you could be on the chopping block. I mean, I'm going to give you a good example. When I worked for the Home Care Workers Union, we sometimes would have to remind legislators that their relative had been in home care and put a face to the issue so that they remember, oh, that's why this program is important. But it becomes important because they've lived enough life to have experienced the hurt, the suffering, the heartbreak, to understand the impact of the decision that they're about to make. And so, yeah.
So, quick question. Mm-hmm. I mean, because that was a lot, man. I mean, it's not too often that, I come in contact with people who, rub the shoulders and, give daps, to city officials, man. That's a good thing, right? So I know, I'm sure you're doing well with your job, or else they wouldn't have kept you around. So, you add value to your team, so, big ups to you. We tip our hat to you, man. In that capacity. Now, here's a fun question for you. Mm-hmm. What has been the most gratifying event that has happened that you've been a part of as you have worked with Mayor Karen Bass?
Ooh. It's been quite a few experiences working with Mayor Bass, to be honest with you.
Now, and then on the flip side, we're going to ask you about one of your least favorite events. And I might know, because I think we were talking before, I might know one, but at least your favorite event that you've been a part of working with Karen Bass.
No, I would say one of my favorite events actually was the first event that I got a chance to quasi-staff her. And it was when we were rolling out, when the FCC came to Los Angeles to roll out I forgot what it's called, but it was the program to discount internet for low-income people. And the reason why that was one of my favorites is because, one, she was there. But a lot of people from the community came out, and you got a chance to see that subsidy to be able to get internet access, it was a game changer for a lot of people. Because, let's just call it what it is. Access to information is so
It's important.
but it's priced so high in
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah, it is.
And
Too high.
For at least for however long that program lasted, it gave people a shot to be able to, know that they had reliable internet,
Certainly.
apply for a job,
Yeah.
get information, kids could get on the web for school, things like that. And I think that was, and you just saw the excitement in the air. Like there was so much excitement around her.
Yeah.
I think one of my least favorites, I don't think I've had any least favorites. I think sometimes, honestly, just driving downtown, it's a grind and driving home because there's just so many people in this town. I mean, when I get to the office, I'm cool, but sometimes it's that I gotta sludge on the 110 and that could be tough at times. But
No, it is tough. It's always tough. The 110, the 10, the 405,
right.
all these freeways out here in LA.
Yep.
It's a grind, especially in the morning, bro.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, like for teachers, I know Erwin, he's a teacher, he's an educator here in Los Angeles. For me, it's not that bad because I can take the streets. I can get there, leave my house by 7:20. I can get to my place at 7:35. I'm good. I can start doing what I do, right?
You're fortunate.
Exactly, I am. But man, and that's one reason why, and I know I'm going down a completely different way. That's one reason why I don't want to move out in the suburbs because I'm so used to having everything around me without any problems. Now I can get to my kids, even though they're a little bit older, I can get to them if there's an emergency. I can get to my wife because, I'm in the community. But man, if I got to hit that freeway to go anywhere, it is crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a
grind.
Yeah, and so at one point in my career, I actually worked for a construction firm. Mm-hmm. The people mover at LAX.
Yes.
So I actually worked on that project before any ground got built. My job was to help put a winning strategy together to get it through council.
Sure.
And then I helped to manage some of the early parts of identifying small businesses to bring on to that project should we win.
Sure.
So let me just say that project put about $1 billion. No, and I do want to, because I think it's important to understand this when we talk about like the impact of this stuff in our communities, right?
Sure.
I believe when I was working on it, it was about a $6.5 billion project.
Wow.
And about $1 billion was being allocated just for small minority, women-owned, veteran-owned businesses. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I remember at that point, the largest contract to a Black-owned business or just a minority business was only $60,000.
Wow.
And so, no, I'm sorry, $60 million. It was $60 million.
Okay. I'm about to say 60,000 is real small.
But here's the thing. Think about $60 million compared to $1 billion is still a drop in the bucket.
It is.
And so I'm saying that to say, ownership counts. We need to be looking to these industries that you think are like that don't look sexy.
Yeah.
But man, it's opportunities out there, man. So many.
Yeah. Just so our listeners can understand, so the people mover, LAX is kind of, dragging its feet now. Like if you go to Atlanta, they got the people mover, you got to run all, sometimes you got to run, but the people mover will help you. You go to Houston, they got a people mover. So people movers are, Pittsburgh, they got a people mover, right? Different places, they have a people mover, right? To move, folks from one place to another in the airport. Well, LAX is, we don't have that. It's like we got like 7 terminals and you drive up in the airport, you drop off a person, boom, you drop them off right at the gate. So what they're trying to do now, the big thing now is trying to eliminate a lot of congestion at LAX. And I know that because just last night I had to drop off my son who was returning back to Prairie View. And so I can get in there real good. All the traffic mostly was from the arrivals. and it's become so crazy now that, when my son or, any of my kids travel, I say, hey, don't go down to the to the arrivals, I'm gonna pick you up upstairs at the departures because it's so easy. It's so easy, and everybody's trying to come. So that's what the people mover is, and I'm sure there's a lot more explanation that Shannon can provide. But in a nutshell, that's kind of what they're doing. And then also the people mover is going to help. Like I said, they're going to eliminate traffic coming into the airport. They want mass transit to kind of help take over, so we have our metro lines, and so they kind of want people to come into the airport that way instead of using the regular car method. Is that correct, Shannon?
Yeah, just to put this in perspective, if you live in Leimert Park, you'll literally be able to walk to Leimert Park or get your Uber and get you dropped off and take the train all the way into whatever terminal you want to go to.
Absolutely.
And that's a game changer because at one point, you couldn't even get a taxi to get to the airport in Leimert Park because of the stigma on our communities.
Absolutely.
So to be able to open up the city and have access is solving a civil right to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, I mean, because travel is, that's paramount, especially now with developing areas that like in my hood in Inglewood, that's 4 miles from SoFi and that little entertainment place, especially during football season, and now with the Intuit Dome, and you got SoFi, and you got the Forum, and you got hotels, and you got. Man, there's just so many things. So you're going to you need this mass transit because, like I said, 4 mile difference right up the street, entertainment capital they're trying to be, instead of going downtown, you just go right up the street and hang out in Inglewood. So that is definitely necessary and needed. Okay, so we've talked a lot about, what you do, man. And I get it that, you like your job.
I do.
Okay, so let's kind of circle back now. I do want to loop your kids in here. So you said you're a father of 3 kids.
Yeah.
So just tell us a little bit about them.
4.
4 kids. Okay, tell us a little bit about them and just because what I want to anchor it in, I want to anchor it on just the foundation that Normandy Christian gave you. And so here's the question: as you talk about your kids and think about it, if Normandy was still around, like it was in its heyday. Would you, as a parent, would you invest, because it is a private school, would you invest in that kind of education? In other words, would you send your kids to Normandy, Christian school, or would you send them to some other school?
No, I would have sent them to Normandy. I would. I had a really, really good experience there, man. I did. I mean, I think I will say that, I mean, aside from the academics, right? I remember there was one moment in kindergarten. It's gonna sound, but
was this when you when you signed Darren's yearbook? Was that?
This was at the beginning of the school year, or I just maybe like middle of the semester, and it's almost embarrassing, but it was a pivotal moment.
Oh no, right? we want to hear this embarrassing moment. Come on.
Well, I remember it was I remember for whatever reason we had to color. And we were coloring influential black leaders and whatnot, right? And I remember the first picture was Dr. King's picture. And I remember Miss Parker said, she was like, we're going to color everybody black, and yada, yada, because they're black. But here's the thing. I had no concept of color and race at the time. Like, I don't want to say I didn't know I was black.
Right.
But I had been around black people my whole life, and you just don't talk about being black when you're just always around it.
You didn't have that social construct as of in Miss Parker's class.
No,
it was foreign to you
because I was 5.
Yeah,
right. And I went to an all black preschool. I went to Little Angels preschool, which was not far down.
Okay, in Crenshaw.
Right.
Okay.
And so I remember I pulled my black crayon out, and she was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "You said color black." That's not what I meant. But that was the first time that I remember being like confused, like black. I'm called black, but I'm really brown.
Yeah.
But then this person's light brown, and this person's dark brown, and all. But it was one of those things where I was allowed to evolve in my ignorance and my naivete in a loving, nurturing place. And I think every experience at Normandy was like that. Even when I think it was Mr. Hayes was the principal, and you got called into his office, and you can't do it today, but you know, when you got called into the office, he pull out that paddle and then we'll just leave it there.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was never out of malice, but it was really it was literally out of disciplinary love.
Yeah, trying to correct the wrong.
You know. But I'm gonna tell you one experience that I do remember that was very vivid. I think it was during Halloween we got a chance to dress up. And they will always have, I think it was always, they had 2 rooms. You can either go to heaven or go to hell. And I remember, but what I remember was
Heaven and hell, huh?
I was definitely afraid of going near hell. Like I felt like God himself was just gonna come down and strike me. And here's the thing, and I say that because what Normandy instilled was a respect that created a healthy fear. It wasn't it was a healthy fear of God, not because I was really afraid he would strike me down, but because I knew that he loved me so much, I was afraid of disappointing him. As opposed to, you know, beating the Bible against my head and, you know, fire and brimstone and all. So it wasn't like that. And so what I remember was just that foundation that I got from Normandy, I think, and that's beyond the academics, because you're gonna get reading, you're gonna get writing, you're gonna get arithmetic, you're gonna get all that stuff in school.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's those moments that I think help shape who I am and how I viewed not only my faith, but also how I viewed how I'm supposed to live life and how I'm supposed to see myself.
Yeah.
That I think has allowed me, one, to father my children in a much more responsible way, and one in which if that kind of environment existed today, I definitely would put my children in. I definitely would have.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because, you know, I have 4 kids. The youngest one, she's graduating in a couple of days, you know, from high school, which is crazy. Like, it's crazy, right? But, you know, so I have 4 kids, my daughter, 3 sons, 19, 22, and 24. But yeah, so my third born son, he was able to go there for a little bit. And so, he remembers and they remember him. He did have a little discipline, he needed a little discipline. But I mean, I think, each kid because my wife and I tended to put kids in different places at different times. So one time I remember we had all 4 kids in 4 different schools, and people were like, oh, why? It's like, hey, because we're trying to give the kid what they need, right? It's not, one pill in our house, and as it relates to education, it's just not one pill solves everything. Now, when I went to middle school and high school, yeah, because, what I was not trying to do, it was just easy for us to kind of, make sure that they got what they need. And the schools they attended were great. So, there's that. Despite what they think, there were some great schools, and it kind of gave them a great foundation. But, I mean, yeah, just reflecting on that question myself, I had an opportunity, and I think he enjoyed his time, there at NCS. So let me ask you this. Let's kind of take a quick stroll down Normandy, okay? So you mentioned Miss Parker during your time. Who was, in fact, your favorite teacher at Normandy Christian School?
Probably was Miss Parker.
Okay. All right. Okay. Shout out to Miss Parker.
Because I think I had her for for kindergarten and first.
Okay. So you got double the fun, double the pleasure, double the fun. Okay.
Then I'm trying to remember who I had for second. I remember I had Miss Jackson.
Okay.
At one point.
Okay. Okay. All right. I didn't have Miss Jackson. Let me see. I'm trying to remember. I had. Well, it doesn't matter.
Mr. Jefferson. That's what
Jefferson.
I had.
Okay.
Mr. Jefferson for second grade.
Okay. All right. Cool. Who did you hang out with? Some of your friends at NCS?
So I guess my crew back then was Harlan Landry and Sean Petty.
Okay.
And I remember Brian Newborn and Brian Blutt, so we would all hang out sometimes. But mostly it was me, Sean, and Harlan.
Okay.
And then Danielle Reeves and I, we actually came in at the same time because our mothers worked together.
Okay.
At Jefferson High School.
Okay.
And so we enrolled together, and we're still friends to this day.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I don't really see I don't really see a whole lot of people like in real life. After that, I run into Sean every so often,
Okay.
and then most of everybody else I just see on Facebook and see what they're doing and stuff like that.
Okay, cool. All right. So then, you had a positive experience. Now, do you remember one of your favorite activities at Normandy?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Tell us about it.
The ROTC.
Oh, okay. Explain. Go for it.
I don't know why. It was something about, I think before someone told me that a black man ain't got no place in the military. I think I was in high school.
Okay.
But what I remember was because my mom worked at Jefferson.
Yeah.
And I remember the ROTC program there. And so when we got an ROTC program at Normandy, I wanted to join as soon as I could. And there was something about the pride of putting on that uniform, making sure your patent leather shoes are shined, and your lines are correct, and the discipline of marching and step, and just the precision and all that good stuff. I took a lot of pride in that. Maybe that's why I like playing in a band also, because a lot of those same principles existed.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think even to this day, I think a lot of the things that I learned in ROTC, I've been able to carry with me. Right. I don't know how long ROTC lasted, but I remember I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah, but it seems that it made a lasting impression on you and your life.
It did.
So, it really does. It doesn't matter how long it lasted, but it lasted as long as you needed it to last. Yeah. And so it made a huge impact, like you said. And, you still, do you think you still carry some of those characteristics around that you've learned in ROTC in Normandy?
Oh, absolutely. And I pass them down to my sons too.
Okay. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Let me see. So we've been at it almost we're just 3 minutes shy of a whole hour, man. Let me see. Is there anything else we want? Because you're a baby big wigger, so
No, man, I'm just trying to live my purpose, man.
Hey, you know what? So tell us what are your next steps? Okay, so I know there'll probably be in a couple of years another mayoral campaign, and we were talking about a certain group not being so happy. So how far do you see yourself working with the Bass administration and City Hall, and then do you see yourself continuing if she's reelected, or do you think at some point you're going to kind of head down your own path because you've been involved with a myriad of things? So what's next for Mr. Shannon?
I work at the pleasure of the mayor, and so as long as she'll have me, then I'm willing to be had. I think one of the things that's important is that this is a job of service, and I enjoy being of service. Whenever that time comes that my days at City Hall have come to an end, my hope is that I'm in a position to continue to do work in the political realm as a consultant full time, if not as an elected official. Who knows?
So you do desire some kind of elected official at some point, because you did talk about being part of Congress, right? So is that like is that an ultimate goal for you, or just something that you wouldn't mind doing before your life is over?
Both and.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I think, I have run for office before. I ran in 2008 for the city council in Gardena.
Okay.
And I lost by just shy of like 2%. I think I'm the only black person in California that lost with Barack Obama on the ballot. That's a whole nother. It's a whole nother.
Did he endorse you? You needed that endorsement, my friend.
Man, don't even get me. It was a good experience, though.
But you know what? And before we leave, you do have a Barack Obama story. So I know we're talking about that pre-show. So, but go ahead and answer this question, and we'll talk about that.
So who knows? I mean, as a consultant or consultant full time or as an elected, we'll see. I don't know. I'm keeping my options open. I think more importantly, whatever I can do that allows me to be as present a father to my children as possible while they are in high school. And then when they get out of high school, I already told them, I might move to Paris, California, or Paris, Italy. I don't know where I'm gonna be. Just because anyway.
Two
Barack Obama
totally different options right there.
So it's fun. I actually snuck into a fundraiser for Barack Obama.
Okay.
It was not intentional.
Okay. Now, where was the fundraiser?
At the Town and Gown at USC's campus.
Okay.
This was 2006.
Okay.
And I hope they don't come after me.
No, I'm sure they're not.
No, but what happened was I was walking with someone who had just won an election. I was chit chatting with that assembly member. Shout out Mike Davis, and we get to. He tells me to walk with him over to this thing at SC. So we get to the door, and he just walks away. So I'm standing in this room like, they have a huge spread. What's going on? I don't know what it was. And then some people, I guess, here's the thing about politics, right?
Yeah.
And power.
Yeah.
For all the young people listening. I walk in with the hottest ticket in town politically. No one knows who I am, but they're like, if they're with him, he must be somebody. So people just start walking up to me. It was like, hey, I'm such and such. I'm like, oh, hey. Next thing you know, I'm kind of in the room in the mix. And then Barack Obama comes in. He gives this rousing speech. And I'm like, wow, like I'm in this room. And I'm getting a picture with him. It was actually kind of cool. So
someone, you sure that photo's not Photoshopped somewhere? I mean,
nah. So it's funny, man, because I went to school in the Deep South. For whatever reason, that day I had on a bow tie.
Oh,
and brothers wasn't really wearing bow ties like that out here.
Yeah,
unless you were Muslim.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. That's the stigma.
And so I know I stood out like a sore thumb because,
Yeah.
I think it was only like 4 black men in the room. Barack Obama, one of the Secret Service guys, he actually ended up being one of my good friends that we play golf with, and me.
Wow.
So
now, how many people would you estimate were in the room?
Easily 100, 120.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sure, because you're at City Hall, you have to kind of dress like, you got to dress the part. You got to come suited and booted.
I don't dress like this.
No. I've seen, I think Darren has posted a couple of pictures, or maybe sent me a picture or something. No, you come suited and booted like you should, because you're in City Hall.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just, you can't come in with a black, let's see, black is a blessing, got his dope shirt on and be like, hey.
No, but you know what? I learned that when I was an intern in college.
Okay. What did tell us what you learned. I'm gonna give you full camera.
So when I was in college, I was interning in the state legislature with Hank Sanders, the senator, and I was one of a few black interns. And let me just say, I went to Alabama State.
Yeah.
So we know interns come from there. Some of the other interns came from Auburn University. They didn't look like us. Okay. And they were allowed to dress. My mama taught me how to iron when I was 10. So I had to come correct every single day. Or as they say down there, air day.
Yeah.
I had to come correct. Shirt, tie, creased, shoe shine. Let's just say some of my colleagues, my intern colleagues, did not have that same burden. Mm-hmm. And so it's just something but what I remember is that because of that, it allowed me to stand out, and it just opened up way more doors than, just being lazy, because it's just lazy.
Yeah. Now, you know what? I would dress up. I still do. I still like dressing up, right? But in my profession as an elementary school teacher, I don't have to dress up as much. Now, I could set an example, and, I probably have about close to about 20 suits, and I'm not lying. I probably got about close to 20 suits when, so most of the time.
All right, Men's Warehouse.
actually, I go downtown, and shout out to Al Weiss.
Okay.
I would go down. My boy turned me on. We go down and get some suits. Took my sons there. They would get some suits. Matter of fact, my son, I was just talking about a couple of days ago, he went down there and got his own suit. Right. I remember I used to have to take him down. Get him a little 3-piece, But anyway, I like, but I can't do it as much. No. Right.
Yeah, not messing with little kids.
No, I mean, and then some of these, some of the students I work with, they're a little bit more intense than the others. But I still like dressing up, and so, you know, that's been engraved. And, you know, so when I pop out and show jokers,
Hey, man.
they like, oh man, you look that. I'm like, look, you know, I just can't do it here.
Right.
You know, because if I did, you know, y'all would think that I'm the principal, literally, because you know, I get down and dress like the nines.
And you know what though? But I do remember now growing up, black men teachers, they dressed
Yeah,
and they gave you an example of what and I think it was an indication of what manhood is, right?
Absolutely.
Manhood is, it really is taking the time to be presentable
yes,
in a way that's professional, that's
Yeah.
respectable, that commanded. You know, so when they walked in the room, there was a level of gravitas that they had.
Absolutely.
And it was an earned gravitas because it says, I'm mature, I'm a man, I'm responsible, I'm dignified, and you're going to treat me
as such.
that way. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. See, you know what? You know, I might just have to go home and just, you know, for no reason at all, just be like, but ow. See,
man, my granddaddy and them used to, in Birmingham, used to
Yeah.
put on suits just to walk down to the corner store, sit on some peach crates just to talk smack to each other all day.
man, I might have to do that tomorrow. Just pop out and show jokers. You know what I'm saying? But no, and then, you know, I wrap this up. I know one guy, you know, Mr. Walker, Mr. Jewett Walker. You know, Mr. Walker?
The Reverend.
Yeah. Man, listen, I don't think I've ever seen him
You're right.
without a suit on.
You are absolutely correct. I don't think I have either.
I'm just like, man, this is like, you know, because you got to have the shirts and the ties and man, I think I've never seen him in like shorts or a sweatsuit. It's always been a shirt and tie.
Every single time. I saw him this past weekend.
Yeah, I just saw him yesterday.
Yeah.
For the 100 Black Men celebration. So,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, man. No, but no, I think it does make a statement. And so, no, you know, when you wear those things, you know, like you said, you stand out. And so, you know, the point is, I know we're talking about dressing up. Point is, if you're watching this and you're a young person, hey, go ahead and step up and pop out and show jokers, because you will set yourself apart, especially if you're going for a job. Some of your other counterparts, they might not dress to the nines like we do. We know how to dress. So, you know, be like Mr. Shannon, who's up in the mayor's office doing his thizzle, doing his thing, working his consulting business, being a dad. You know, go ahead and get your suit and tie on and do your thing.
Yep.
Do your thing. Man, this has been a wonderful night. Now, let me check the notes from El Presidente and see if he has anything else that he wants me to say. Let me see. I didn't touch on who? Oh, see, okay. El Presidente wanted me to. So, you know what? We got 2 minutes, man, because my wife has already told me. She's like, look, I'm hungry. Where you at? Where you at, sir? I let you out the house, and this is how you treat me. I'm hungry.
All right.
But here's the kicker. So in our house, it's always, what do you want to eat? And sometimes we don't know. And so she said, okay, I'm hungry right now. And I said, okay, what do you want to eat? And I still haven't got a response. So so go ahead, man. Tell us about your fraternity experience, and how was that as a young Black man growing up in LA?
So, yeah, man. So I'm fortunate to be a member of the greatest fraternity on earth, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, founded in 1911 on the campus, Indiana University in Bloomington. No, I'm just act like I'm still online. No, you know, I'll say this though, man. Being a member of Kappa Alpha Psi has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. You know, just being involved in any kind of organization, in particular one where you have college-educated Black men, it just allows you to be able to just kind of move through life differently.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love about it is that not only the service that we do, giving back, but it really is the fraternity. It really is a fraternal bond.
Yeah.
Even though I pledged in the Deep South, when I came out here, to say that like I have brothers here, that's the truth. I mean, when I moved back to California, I had brothers, and I had a built-in network that have helped me politically.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I remember just little things, man. Like I was a newbie on the scene, just came back from college, and I have on a Kappa charm, and I see a brother. I may see a brother going down the street, but he looked and he see my charm on my neck or something. Next thing you know, do our
chatting
little
it up.
thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, it becomes take my number. What do you need? Next thing I'm being introduced to this person. I mean, it's just created so many opportunities, right? But more importantly, with my son just crossed Kappa back in the fall, so he's getting a chance to experience what that bond is like. My little guy, he's in Kappa League, and so he's building his own bonds and friendships, and he'll grab my cane every so often and try to bop around the house. But the bottom line is that and what I love about just being Greek is that it's not just about being a Kappa, but then when you go places, especially when you go in places where we're not the dominant culture, when you just meet another Greek person, that just it's like there's another layer of shared experience that exists. And so you can't, and I know some people are like, I'm not gonna pay no money to buy no friends. It's not about buying friendship, but it really is it's something much deeper than that. And if you think that it's only about friendship, then it might not be for you anyway, and that's okay.
Okay. So here's the last question, since you talked about your wonderful fraternity over there. Let me see. If you had to, ooh, this is a good question right here. If you had to not participate in one organization or attend one school, which one would it be? If you had to give up one.
Either going to Alabama State or being a Kappa?
Nope, attending NCS.
Oh.
Or being a Kappa.
Man, why would you do that, man? That's not
Which one would you denounce?
I don't believe in denouncing nothing. I made a commitment. My mama made the first commitment sending me to NCS because I ain't had no choice.
Okay.
And I made a commitment.
Which experience would you give up?
I wouldn't, man. Like that's like
if your life depended on it.
You know what though? I'll put it like this, man. I'm not gonna answer that because that's one of those things where it's just like you just gotta snatch it from me and then let me deal with the grief.
Okay.
But if you asking me to choose, I'm not gonna choose.
You're not gonna choose one.
Nah.
Not one over the other.
Nah, because both of them shaped who I am today. I
Gotcha.
mean, and both of them are experiences that I wouldn't
trade for the world.
Yeah, I like who I am.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we appreciate it, man. Hey, Mr. Shannon, I appreciate you hopping on with us tonight, man.
It's been my pleasure.
Just having this conversation tonight, it seems to me that you have a treasure trove of knowledge and information. And at some point, Mr. Shannon, we might have to have you back on.
Be happy to anytime.
So especially during
election season.
Man, we got to, because, especially for LA politics, it's kind of hard to say, all right, we got so-and-so and so-and-so. Personally, I can read some of the stuff, but, if I need someone to help me who's been in the back rooms with so-and-so and so-and-so, or who knows, kind of the ins and outs of what, maybe not firsthand knowledge, but you kind of know, like, no, this brother right here, he kind of shady. Or, no, this sister right here, she's solid. She a Jasmine Crockett. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, we might have to have you back at some point.
I'll be happy to.
And have you come on and brag about your kids and all that kind of good stuff, and just more stuff.
Yeah.
We could talk a little bit more about AI.
Well, maybe AI might be doing an interview.
Hey, it just might do. All we have to do is just push. And actually, we probably don't even have to push the button.
Right.
AI will just do it all on its own.
Scarily too.
Man, absolutely. The next 10 or 15 years is definitely going to be. It's going to be great. It's going to be challenging, but it's also going to be scary as well because AI is crazy, and we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg, man.
I just want to get through the next 3.5.
Absolutely.
Let's just get through the next 3.5, and then we can worry about it.
Man, see that You about to we gonna end it tonight. I'm gonna go home and get the sweetie some food, man. No, but we appreciate it, man. I think we're gonna be all right. We're gonna get through the next 3.5, but just don't let it be 3.5 years before you come back on the show. We need you to come back at some point. So, we'll bug Darren. I got your email, so we appreciate you. Before we go, are there any last words that you'd like to say? Anything about your experience, whether it's NCS related or just, how you were reared, man? Go ahead. I'm gonna give you the full screen and just go ahead and give us a good word.
Gosh, I don't even know what to say now. I think sometimes in life we could be so fortunate that we've had experiences that allow us to just kind of become, right? And I think one of the things that it's important to do is, and one of the things that this experience has enabled me to do is really go back in my memories to remember my experience at Normandy and how much that was such a strong foundation for me to become who I am. And I think we've all had experiences like that, whether it be at school, whether it be at church, whether it be with a family member, whether it be with your friends group. But the bottom line is that I think it's important to kind of go back sometimes, remember who you were, so that you can remember who you want to become. And I think as long as we can always keep that perspective that, we are a product of our next moment, then I think we're gonna be okay. And I think whatever it is that you set out that you want to do, you'll be able to do. That and salt and pepper on my grits.
Absolutely. I can get down with salt and pepper, some eggs, and definitely some cheddar cheese in that piece too. Right. So I appreciate you. Hey, Shannon, man, it's been a blast tonight. And I just want to say, hey, I appreciate you, man. Like I said, we were supposed to go live last week, but some things happened, and you came back, and you hopped on with us today. So we appreciate you, man. We're definitely going to have you back. So just sit tight. We're going to put you in the green room. Sit tight, and we're going to close out the show. I appreciate you, man, hopping on with us tonight.
Thanks.
Hey guys, so that's the show. And first of all, I see some of the comments, so I just want to say a special shout out to Erwin, Brian Davis. I see Chris Krigler. He hopped in, and of course El Presidente, Darren Hudson. So yeah, wonderful night. Just great. Chop it up with Mr. Shannon, gave us a whole bunch of knowledge as it relates to just, working in the political system, understanding, having a good foundation with the frats, and just being a good guy, making sure that he's a good dad to his 3 children. So we appreciate him hopping on. And then also included somewhere in there is just his NCS experience and how much he appreciates the foundation that NCS laid for him as he matriculated through. We're not going to talk about the other school right after NCS, but the other stuff that he learned. We just so thankful for the impact that NCS, Normandy Christian School, had on his life. So best wishes to Mr. Shannon. And then, that's it, guys. So I appreciate you hopping on. Next week we'll have an opportunity to pop the comments on there. So that's big for me. And I kind of went live blind tonight, just, didn't do a big test. I said we were going to, but it was kind of getting late. So we just went ahead and did it cold turkey. So obviously, the sound is better. Erwin said that the sound was better, so appreciate you, Erwin, for chiming in with that. But yeah, we'll come again and have another interview. Darren, who's going to hop on next week? Do we know? Or next month?
Yes. Hold on.
Okay, well, as he's figuring it out, just make sure you tune in. Hopefully it'll be the last Monday of this month. If not, we'll let you know. Other than that, hey, big shout out to Shannon, big shout out to Darren, and then I'll have my special friend Daryl Thomas in the place to be.
James,
so, yes.
Your classmate, Sean Jackson.
Oh, Sean Jackson, Coach Sean. Okay. Done deal. Coach Sean, I've been meaning to get him on my own podcast, so that's going to work out twofold. So other than that, just stay tuned. Hopefully we'll come back and have another amazing podcast here on the NCS Best on the West podcast. I'm your host, Mr. James Riley, and do us a favor.
where the